So let me be very clear. This is not my take, nor what I believe is going to happen. So I'm not bait and switching you. I'm not tricking you. I'm just sharing with you something that is sure to go viral today, is already in the process of going viral. And that was a take made on the Athletics women's basketball show about Paige Bueckers staying at UConn for another season. So basically, the premise was for the show, what's your bold prediction for moves in women's basketball? And Sabrina Merchant, who is a part of that show, gave her prediction, which was that Paige Bueckers will not declare for the WNBA draft this year. I don't think that's the case. I think Paige has already said she's going pro. I think it would make her look weak to go back to UConn for another year, given her age. I think this is highly unlikely, if not definitely not happening. So clear. That is my position on the perspective. But it's worth sharing what she had to say and the case that was made, because a lot of people are going to be talking about it. And it was at least substantiated with reasoning. So here is the case that was made, and I'll link the full show in the description. But here you have it.
Big, bold predictions around moves in women's basketball.
Paige Bueckers will not declare for the WNBA draft this year.
That's interesting.
Well, first of all, she'd be locking herself into a rookie contract that is presumably worth far less than it would be were she to be drafted in 2026. So just financially, it doesn't make a ton of sense to play in the WNBA as a rookie in 2025 versus 2026. Also, there's been a lot of buzz around whether Paige actually wants to go to Dallas, given the instability with that organization and political climate in Texas too. That factors into things like women's health rights there. And then I don't think UConn is going to win a national title this year. So I kind of feel like maybe one more year of Paige and AZ running the band back, and that's their time. If she were to declare this year, she would lock into a 4-year rookie contract that averages somewhere around $85,000 per year. Whereas the expectation is that salaries will jump significantly with the new collective bargaining agreement. So she would have the opportunity to make a lot more money on her rookie contract if she waits in college for one more year.
Big, bold.
So let me tackle some of the points that were made here. And first of all, I do not know Sabrina personally, but I have interacted with her at games. She is a serious individual, not somebody who's just out there trying to get aggregated or something like that. She's reported stuff in the past. I think she was the one that broke the Kate Martin Valkyrie's expansion draft selection. Honestly, I think she was the one that broke that. So I'm not taking any shots, but I can pick apart the argument, if you will. The last point about she doesn't think they're going to win at UConn this year. It would be super embarrassing if Paige were to not win at UConn this year and then go back and not win again. I mean, to keep chasing that ring, to keep chasing that championship, at some point it becomes embarrassing. And she's had enough cracks at it. Obviously, she had an injury at one point, but she was there in the Final Four last year. She was there this year, obviously, running it back with the team, with AZ Fudd back in the lineup, with Sarah Strong there. So I think the risk of coming back for the goal of a championship outweighs the reward, to be honest, from a perception standpoint, even if she will be the best player in UConn history who doesn't win, if she doesn't win this year, and that will be the way she's remembered. The financial aspect of it makes some sense, of course. I wonder, if the CBA gets torn up, if they make some changes in that regard, or have some details in there that allow for some flexibility with contracts. So I wouldn't necessarily state it as a fact that these things are going to be the case from a financial standpoint. But then there's also the fact that Paige has gotten a ton of NIL endorsements already. She's got the Unrivaled deal. She's got the Nike, Players Edition shoe. Surely when she gets to the WNBA, she will get more deals. So I don't think money is really going to be a problem for Paige Bueckers going forward. So there's that part of it. Then there was the political Texas thing. I can't speak for Paige, so I don't know how much that weighs in, but I don't think she can speak for Paige either. I never really thought about that in the context of sports teams. I mean, I wasn't thinking about it with the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously, this is a women's league, so it is different in that sense with that particular issue. But unless I hear that coming from Paige's mouth, I'm not going to make that a thing. on the West Coast, there was the desire to go to the Sparks. I would imagine that seemed to be what the reporting said. Paige is, I mean, she would fit in LA clearly. The way she is a star, the way she knows how to market herself, the way she gallivanted around the country in the off season. But I thought it was worth considering. It will be much discussed, and I'm sure much clowned. At least sharing the reasoning behind the take. And look, it's always good to have a nice. I mean, I know I'm not actually having a debate with anybody, but to discuss things like that, I'm open to ideas and presentations, even if I think they are wrong. And ultimately, it would be too embarrassing, I think, for Paige Bueckers to go back to UConn on so many different levels. I mean, it's not like she's getting out early to go. She's already been around. She's already older. She's already had her cracks at it. She's already been made the presumptive number one pick in the draft. I just don't see the upside because I don't think the financial thing is going to be a real hindrance for her. To be honest with you, I mean, I don't see Paige lacking in endorsement deals now. I certainly don't see Paige lacking in endorsement deals in the future. And by the way, if she were to go back, the chances of her being the number one pick go down because you're already seeing some pushback to that. She hasn't had the best. She's having a very good season, don't get me wrong, but she hasn't had the best season. And myself and others have at least floated the idea of Olivia Miles becoming the number one pick, which isn't going to happen. I think for some of the marketing reasons I just outlined with Paige, unlikely to happen. But you can start to make the basketball case that should be the case. So if Paige were to, not declare and spurn the WNBA this year, last year it was Caitlin and Caitlin was going to go one. This year is kind of her year in a lot of ways to be the marquee name and the star. If she were to go back, she might lose that. There's no guarantee she's keeping that because she hasn't been good enough relative to her peers to be like cut above regardless, with no arguments otherwise, or no chance of that being challenged otherwise. So all in all, certainly a hot take. The word hot take gets thrown around a lot. The point of that was hot take. It's going to blow up on the internet almost assuredly, especially because it's a relatively slow day and people like to find the thing of the day to discuss. And look, I'm amplifying it here, but I'm not doing it in any sensational way or in any way to try and, get people upset or riled up, but just saw it, figured I'd share it, and figured I'd give you my thoughts on it. And I politely disagree with the premise that Paige Bueckers will be back at UConn next season.